seducer. God vibes only. God vibes only.
Run into the street when the money don't need. Say we need some money for some food to eat. Said it's hard. Said it's hard, you know. Run into the street when the money don't need. Say we need some money for some food to eat. Said it's hard. Said it's hard, you know.
Spirit of Marcus Garvey, I feel it so from head to toe, leading and feeding my body. I stick to the code, I never fold, no weapon on earth can harm me. God bless my foes, I'm out of control, teaching this guy body. body, I'm reaching my God body. Deeper than Bob Marley, racing with Ricky Bobby. We street tested, then invest in a wide body, no rest. The streets are test, but we risk it and connect with Poppy Divine. But we doing time cause our lines was moving sloppy. They watch me, they wanna pop me, they watch me, I swear they watch me. I'm Islam mixed with the hustle, I'm Malcolm in a Maserati. I'm chasing elevation, frustrating Illuminati. I'm Huey leading the Panthers with answers, no one can stop me. I broke the code of the Matrix, it's basic, I'm printing copies. I'm repping for Harriet Tubman, she got me, they'll never knock me in this. They'll never knock me. I know she got me.
Running through the street when the money don't need. Selling it some money for some food to eat. Said it's hard. Said it's hard, you know. Running through the street when the money don't need. Selling it some money for some food to eat. Said it's hard.
I'm on the middle step on the stairway to heaven. I'm coming as one, but guarded by 11. My whole circle driven, and all of us brethren. We using our visions as tools for manifesting. Manifesting all types of blessings. And I can't say the last time this brother seen a reverend. It's been a while since I sat down on the pew, but I can keep my head down, stay on the grind and pay my dues. Hey, I can spot a mountain, I can climb it too. I can spot a broken bridge and replace the missing screws. See a team of young kings and lace them with some jewels. I can play the game of life, hey, and never really lose. I can pull up in a photo coupe with no fumes. I can live a whole life and never see a tomb. I can find the right wife and forever be a groom. I can plant 1,000,000 seeds and watch 1,000,000 bloom. Stay in tune, stay in tune.
God vibes only.
You are now tuned in to the Cosmic Convos podcast, your #1 source for accurate, relevant, and thought-provoking astrological conversations in the podcast nation, the place where stars and minds align.
Peace. You're now tuned into the Cosmic Convos podcast. I'm your humble host, Harut, and I got my good brother here, Brother Ra. How you doing?
How you doing, man?
Hey, man, no complaints, man. No complaints, man. Like I said, man, I'm trying to put in my, what they say, 10,000 hours, man. I'm trying to get like Ra over here, man.
Yeah, 10,000 is what they say, huh? Yeah,
Indeed.
I don't know if it's that much, but it's definitely a lot. But you're on your way, brother. You're on your way. We got to swap, because he got 10,000 hours on other systems. So don't let him fool you, y'all. Don't let him fool you.
Hey, man, listen. Indeed. But before we get too far, man, I want to remind you all, make sure that you like and subscribe to this channel. Like this video, subscribe to this channel. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you know when we going live or whatnot. And this episode is brought to you by Push It Forward Media Group, Calipusha Astrology, and our good people over there on Patreon. Big up to y'all. Or whatnot. If you want to find Push It Forward, you can find us on Instagram at Push It Forward at PUSHITFWD. You can find this podcast, all the other podcasts are part of the Push It Forward Podcast Network. You can find myself
And you know, everything else we got going on. You can also find us at pushitforward.com. That's pushitfwd.com. Brother Ra, how can the people get a hold of you?
Oh, you know, the same old same, brother. Either IG or Facebook via Shekhem Ra or kalapurushastrology@gmail.com.
Indeed. Speaking of Patreon, if you don't know, we did do an episode this morning, so y'all go check that out or whatnot on the Patreon or whatnot. So, you know, tune in there or whatnot. You got definitely more to come or whatnot. So Rob, man, how's everything going, brother, man? What you know, what we looking like gearing up this year and everything, man? How's everything going, brother?
It's 2022, you know,
Right.
2022. And a down and dirty way, I kind of always look at the year. It's just to kind of take the last two numbers and see what those numbers add up to. And it's numerologically 4, right? And if
Right.
it's 4, if you know numerology, you know what that is, right? And nothing but Rahu, right? So it's gonna be another ride. it's, it's gonna be another interesting year, I must say. Definitely.
Indeed. Yeah, man. Yeah, man, it's a good time, man, to be doing this, man, or whatnot, for sure. You know, yeah, it's a good time to be doing this or whatnot. I you know, was just looking at some things this morning or whatnot, you know, over the past few weeks, and yeah, it's gonna be interesting or whatnot. We definitely gonna talk about that if you read the bill for the day or whatnot. Before we go on to there though, what's the feedback you got on last episode? You know, a lot of people didn't see the age of Leo coming or whatnot. You know, a lot of them didn't know what to expect. Man, I got a lot of good feedback on it though, for sure.
Yeah, a lot of good feedback, and I'm noticing that a lot of people are going back and like trailing the actual seasons where we already did the previous um, ages. So I'm noticing that the other ages are actually getting more traction because people are having to add up where we are now, and so I'm anticipating that people are going to look forward to the next age that we do, but it's definitely got some good eardrops with regards to what we produced last couple weeks.
Absolutely, man. It even tied into the most previous episode I did with the First We Build podcast or whatnot. Definitely make sure you go check that out. It was a young lady's post. You know, it's basically, you know, like what, you know, a whole bunch of random people made up all these rules that we gotta live by, and why do I gotta pay for water, and you know, why can't I just chill? You know, you know, it ended up being a history lesson. A lot of it grounded in a lot of the things that we discovered out in the age of Leo.
Right.
Whatnot got a lot to do with it.
Needs, right? You don't work, you don't eat, right?
Exactly. You know, that's funny because I hear that a lot of people be like, man, why can't we just chill? And I'm like, man, we ain't never been able to chill. If it wasn't
been a part of man's makeup ever.
Right. If you wasn't running from some wildebeest or something like that, man, you had the ops on the other side of the savannah trying to get at you. Then you had a disease or famine or something. You ain't never been able to just chill.
I mean, we have a romanticized way of, I guess, imagining like we were in some kind of Garden of Eden where you could just walk up and, pick a fruit and just eat and, sit there. And I mean, you had to wash your body, right? You had to, just basic stuff had to be produced in the first place, even if you didn't have clothes, right?
Right.
Still, babies were born, right? You had to breastfeed. You had to go get the food, right? So, it's a romanticized kind of paradigm that we imagine because, we, and most people don't know, most of Africa is savanna.
Right.
It's smaller jungle regions and the regions where you could just go eat the food off the trees. You know what I mean? I mean, even if you look at wildlife, you know what I mean? Like the great apes, they gotta forage for food, right? So what makes you any
Right.
different, right?
Right. Right.
So,
Interesting thing, man. That's what we here for, though, man. We here to get the people
definitely.
to shoot. Well, without further ado, man, I think we got a lot to talk about today, man. So let's go ahead and jump into today's topic of whatnot. 2022. We like we always do. We're gonna peer into this year and see what it got in store. And I know we're gonna double back on some of the things that we've already talked about, and kind of see how those things have come to pass or whatnot. And go ahead and get into that. Of course,
sir.
our friend COVID, the vid, talk about that as well. So shoot, man, let's get into it.
Yeah, let's do it. So, we talked about last week, we're going to do kind of and it's interesting that we're doing it in this month of January, right? In the Gregorian calendar system, January is named after Janus, the two-faced god, where he looks back and forward, right? Looks back to the past and forward to the future. So, we made some interesting predictions, and we won't go too deep into last year, right? If you want to know those predictions and see how they panned out, definitely go back to the beginning of what we did last season or last year. Then you can listen to it for yourself and definitely kind of take note and see what has transpired. But some of the things we're going to cover just so we can kind of, take a look at how the forces of nature have played themselves out to the T. And
Right.
one of the things that I actually do, and I don't know too many astrologers that do it, but I look at the actual day after the solstice. I take a look at that day, right? Because if you really understand how time works, you know what we're using is an arbitrary overlay on what is really oriented based on the movements of the sun and the graduation of it out of when it gets, the sun begins to become lighter, or, there's more light in the day. The first day after the solstice, right, that's when that first light begins to, right, wax, as they say, or grow greater. And I look at what happens on that particular day. Interestingly enough, last year on that day, Mars was conjunct the moon, right? And I noticed, like, I know this year is going to be a lot about women being empowered, right? I don't know if you saw that last year, brother, but last year was a phenomenal year for women, right? Big ups to the sisters, big up to women, period. They made a lot of monumental strides in regards to Western society. And of course, right, we all know, right, that the first woman vice president, right, took office, right? Um, Kamala Harris. So that's a big, big, big stride for, equal rights as far as women are concerned. That's the first ever first, right? Other than Hillary being with Bill, right? That's the first ever time that a woman's been in power in the seat of the second highest seat in the nation. So that's a big, big stride. And the Mars was conjunct the moon. Just so you know what I was looking at, Mars was conjunct the moon the day after solstice ended, December 25th. So that's a big, big piece.
That's what I got put up right here, folks, for you guys tuning in on the visual side of it or whatnot. This is what's going on right here.
Right. I use that day as the actual kind of gauge to see what really is kind of unfolding. And it's worked perfectly, right? There was a woman that won she won the Senate, right? Let me see if I can get her name. In fact, even outside of her, Ngozi Iweala became the first woman and first African to lead the World Trade Organization since it was founded in 1995. Right, major stride. Right, first. Right. Of course, in the entertainment field, Beyonce picked up the 28th award. Right, she's won more Grammys than any other woman in history. Right. Big ups to her. Right. Now, towards the end of the year, but I kind of take notice when people make some announcements, so that I kind of gauge the year from that perspective, not when they're necessarily installed or put in position, but when the announcement was made. And the New York City Police Department had its first female commissioner, not only female commissioner, but she was of African American descent. Big ups to Kachant Sewell, right? She took her oath, right, beginning of January, but it was announced, right, last year. Um, Rhonda Bolton was the Huntington's Beach first Black councilwoman. So there's a lot of strides that have happened with regards to really putting women in power. And Mars is that planet that has that ability, especially being in Aries with the moon. So, right, the year in review definitely showed, right, that last year was a big up for women. If you ever, I don't know, I watch, kind of a nerd in some regards. I watch, kind of. Um, I'm a Comic Con kind of type person. I watch a lot of the superhero movies. If you notice, like a lot of the superhero movies had a plethora of female roles, right, that were really promoted on a high level, right? So just noticing even in the entertainment field, there was a major emphasis on women being in positions of power and authority. So that's
Right.
definitely um, what we saw happen last year. Um, the other piece is, and we're going to still see this play out. In fact, we're going to talk about it here when we talk about what's coming in this year. I did predict last year that this year would be a big issue with regards to how COVID is being played out. And last year, Mars went into Virgo right around in September, right? And that was when, right, they really started to emphasize the restrictions or the quote unquote mandates for individuals to become vaccinated. Well, Mars is obviously, right, as many of you may know, and some of you may not know, Mars is the planet of contention and fighting, right, and war. And so there was a health war, right?
Right.
Virgo is the sign of health, healing, right? And so it was definitely something to take note that in September last year, there was a big argument, a big kind of line drawn in the sand, if you will, around individuals being mandated to take the vaccine. And that is something I predicted previously, but it took a route where it's now gaining so much momentum. And here's the thing, my good people, right? I'm not just looking at the United States of America. That is, of course, where many of us lie, but this podcast reaches the world round. So, in many countries, right, in a lot of different countries, Australia, Austria, France, right, they were fighting. And I say fighting, I mean bottles throwing, rock throwing, right, um, fighting to resist, right, the mandates that were being placed or that are being placed on them by their government. So this is a big thing that we have seen. If you pay attention to the news, not of course American news or United States news, but news that kind of pans around the world, RT, things like that, they show, right, that there's a lot of different riots, a lot of different standoffs between the government and between the citizens of the respective countries to say, no, we don't want the restrictions. No, we don't want the vaccines. No, we don't want to have to show a card when we go in to eat, or when we go into a public setting, or we go to an event. And so this has been a big contention. And so Mars was really kind of the spinoff when that kind of blew its top, right? When it kind of, when it got out of control, and it's still out of control. So that's one of the things that we discussed. And so take a look, keep your eyes open, because it's going to get more interesting as we go throughout the year.
Indeed.
One other thing, and before we leave 2021 alone, remember I predict, folks, that a lot of movie stars will be passing, right?
Right.
A lot of movie stars will be passing. A lot of entertainers, a lot of famous people. Well, we have a long list to talk about, right? We've got quite a few, not only just African Americans or people of color, but we have a lot of different people just around the world, period, right? That passed last year, right? Very famous individuals that have not necessarily been in the limelight, but definitely attracted a lot of attention over the course of their lives. And so one of the things that we noticed is that, and it's interesting, Owani, she probably will pop in here pretty soon. She sent me a chart of Betty White the day before Betty White passed. That's a little, interesting, let's say. She sent me the chart. I'm looking at the chart of Betty White. The next day, she's gone. I'm like, amazing, right? So we kind of discussed her chart in brief detail, but Betty White, 99 years old, and that's a good life to live. If you got that long, got that far, you definitely doing something to maintain longevity.
I think we did. We did Betty White. We talked about Betty White one time. Yeah,
I might have mentioned, but yeah,
the episode on longevity.
Right. We did, in fact. Interestingly enough, I do recall that. And so, the questions we're talking about Golden Girls, in case some of you don't know who Betty White is, right? She's from Golden Girls, right? The famous kind of show of the elderly ladies that were kind of in a sisterly position and living together and so forth. But she passed at the very end of last year.
Right.
We've got a few other people. Prince Philip, right? Queen Elizabeth's husband, right? He passed. And some others, Ed Asner, right? Ned Beatty, right? Some people that many people, like, he's not famous people, but we've got some very interestingly, very kind of close to home folks that passed. And one of them at the very beginning of the year was DMX, right? DMX, he transitioned right into the inner planes. So, and I knew when DMX hit, I said, okay, here we go, right? It's about to begin. It's going to unfold from here. So that was interesting. We also had Fuquan Johnson. He passed. He's a comedian. He's not very well known, but if you ever get a chance, and rest in peace, DMX. I listened to a lot of his albums right back in the day, and he definitely had a presence in my record player, right, in my stereo for a while, right?
Indeed.
When they first came out. Definitely a big ups, because he definitely played in a lot of roles. There's Fuquan Johnson, right? He's a comedian. He passed from an overdose of fentanyl, right? So, and you know what? It's interesting that a couple of this drug epidemic is serious, my people. It hits home fast. It doesn't take long to really get you and to really take a hold and ruin your existence. But fentanyl has been a big problem in the drug community for the past year, and also, of course, Michael K. Williams, right? Big up to that brother. I really enjoyed his role in The Wire. Yeah, that's a brother that can act his off, right? He is definitely somebody that I paid attention to as he developed his career. A lot of good movies he played in. A lot of interesting characters. So, rest in peace, brother. Hope the ancestors guide you well. Yafe Kodo. I don't know if many know who Yafe Kodo is. Yafe Kodo is when I was a young man, young kid, right? He was, yeah, that brother there, man. Yafe Kodo, right? In fact, I went to school with his daughter, right? Interestingly enough, so I met him, right? And off stage, he's very friendly, very personable, very charismatic, very very likable character. Off screen, so rest in peace, brother. You know, rest in power, definitely in that regard. Um, some other well knowns, right? Cicely Tyson, right? Cicely Tyson, the queen of actresses. Cicely Tyson was acting, y'all, when there wasn't any very many black roles for women, right, in the entertainment industry. So she's definitely broke some glass ceilings in her regard. Cicely Tyson, I mean, she's classic. You know, and mention her name, she, you know, that's a legend. So we definitely lost her. You know, renowned, world renowned actress, and I mean, she can act, right? She definitely can do that to the T.
She
Um,
always had like a interesting look to me because she's always looked youthfully old for a very long time.
Youthfully, even when she was young, she looked
Right,
like, yeah, you're right. You're right. You're absolutely right. And so she's kept it though. It's like she
right,
aged almost, not don't say in reverse, but you know what I mean? She definitely kept that same look, right?
right.
So you know, and I enjoyed quite a few of her movies. I really, she'll definitely be missed. A couple of other people that we've got here, Biz, right? Biz Marquee. Um, yeah, make the music with your mouth, Biz, right?
Mhm.
Lost him, you know, I lost him fairly young, you know, it's time when it's time, it's time, right? You when you're being returned to the ancestors, when you got to cross those great waters, right? It's time to go. So, you know, definitely you'll be missed as well, brother. Uh, Another one, Suzanne Douglas. Now, she's not a household name per se, but if you see her face, right, and my brother might have her here, you'll know who she is. She's played in quite a few movies: The Inkwell, How Stella Got Her Groove Back,
She
Jason's
was
Lyric.
she
Um,
was in yeah, the Robert Townsend show.
yes, she was in. Yep, she was in that. She's been a. She's actually has a fairly broad or long list of movies that she's been in and saw shows. So you know, when I found out she passed, I was like, oh wow, you know,
I didn't even know that, to be honest with you. It didn't
yeah,
get that much
yeah,
coverage.
yep. She's resting with the ancestors. So she's moved on, you know, and you know, condolences to her and her family, and you know, she definitely had a stage presence and had a really strong spirit on screen. Right, she had a really strong motherly, affectionate spirit. You know, she when they typecast her perfectly because you know she just had that kind of energy where you almost wanted to reach out and hug her. So definitely she will be sorely missed. Um, Getting into some people that, and one other brother that will always be remembered if you are into comedy and watching Richard Pryor, right? Richard Pryor is funny primarily, and a big reason why he is such a name is because of um, Paul Mooney, right? Paul Mooney was called home to the ancestors this year, and you know he's been around for a while, but you know Paul Mooney was a hell of an actor in regards to. I mean, he starred in a lot of the older ex-black exploitation. He was in quite a few of those, right? And I mean, funny, just naturally funny, right? And could make race a very interesting conversation, right? I mean, the way he spilled it was very, 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 very craftily uh, thought about. So, you know, if you've ever watched Dave Chappelle, right, he's definitely been in Dave Chappelle's skits, uh, Negro Damas, right? We're
Right.
gonna miss you, Negro Damas, right? Definitely a brother that I enjoyed watching and enjoyed being entertained by.
Well, I mean, if you like Richard Pryor, you like Paul Mooney, because Paul Mooney was
one of the
his main
same
writer.
almost, right?
One
Really
of his
true.
main writers.
Yes, primary
Yeah.
writer. So, I mean, and when he was on stage, just, the way he carried a joke, the way he carried the comedy, and, comedy, like we talked about in Dave Chappelle's, episode, comedy is there to diffuse, right? And kind of talk about the social issues and the underlying kind of obvious challenges that we have, right? And Paul Mooney was a master at, really covering a lot of those topics with regards to race. So definitely a brother will be well received by the ancestors, I'm sure. Some ones that kind of, that may not be known, and maybe we may or may not have some photos for it, is Purvis Staples, the Staples sisters. She's gone, right? She's older sister, definitely had her life to live. Lloyd Price, R&B singer, right? And I just know these people because my folks, right, listened to them back in the day when I was a child, right? I remember hearing them talking about them and, hearing the conversations about the Staples sisters and Lloyd Price. So that definitely will rest in peace. Now, some things that are interesting, right? Young Dolph, right? We lost him last year, and tragic death. Just shows that black men, black people are still struggling with gun violence and violence in the streets and gang violence and things like that. So was it AJ Johnson passed last year? Was that AJ? AJ did. Was it last year?
He passed, but I don't know if it was last year.
It may have been.
It was either last year or it could have been 2020.
It might have been 20. I thought it might have been 2020, right? But either way, Anthony Johnson, AJ Johnson, definitely funny guy, right? Passed on, but
he died in September.
Was it this year? Last year? Okay.
This year. I mean 2021.
2021. Okay. All right. So yeah, right. AJ Johnson. Yeah. Yeah, brother, is definitely another one. I mean, there's a lot of people we talk about here, folks. It's a lot, right? That are well known. I mean, that are fairly close to home in regards to the African American community. So, but yeah, Young Dolph, we lost him, and AJ, definitely funny brother, definitely. Friday, and he was even in House Party. I didn't even know he was in House Party. So, funny enough, right? He's the brother with the Jerry curl, right? But yeah. Young Dolph, man, talented brother, man, and entrepreneurial to the max. I mean, bought 80 homes in Memphis. That is serious business, right? Giving back to the community, providing a way where others don't have a way, being a family man. Sorely missed. I'm sure his family is definitely grieving. So definitely condolences to his family and his children. And some ones that may be not so well known, but Young Dolph was making his way. I mean, he was on his way. Definitely, I would say in the next couple of years, had he continued, he would have probably made more of an impact and had a more of a widespread entity as far as people's lives is concerned. Draco, that's his name, right?
Drakeo the ruler.
Drakeo the ruler, right?
Yeah.
Right. Again, towards the end of the year, right? And it was just like it was a domino effect, right? Slim 400, right? They just buried him, I think, a couple days ago. So, it's just been a year of losses, that, Slim 400, rest in peace, brother. These streets will call you back in. If you're not careful, just because you got money and just because, you have a reputation that seemingly people may appreciate you in some regards, there's always haters out there. So
definitely. Pac say some part that I roughed up way back, coming back after all these years.
Yeah.
Tat. That's the way it is.
That's the way it is. And you say it's always, you say it's somebody that knows you.
Yeah.
Right? Crazy enough, right? Somebody that's been near you or somebody that's close, not a stranger per se, right?
Right.
With young Dolph, um, they found the fella that killed him was in, and it's a little eerie. Yeah, we mentioned DMX. We definitely talked about DMX. It was
Mm-hmm.
eerie because they showed a picture of the brother in the background of young
Mm-hmm.
Dolph chilling right there with him. It's
Right.
just that's interesting. And he said it. He said it in his song "Preach." It's usually the one that's sitting next to you that
Mm-hmm.
takes you out. So crazy enough, right? He kind of not I want to say predicted in any way, but definitely, he's had his rounds. I mean, Young Dolph is not absent to gunplay. They had a song called "100 Shots." They shot 100 times at him, and then he got shot again. He actually got shot. I mean, at that point, I'm just not. I look. I love you. I love the city, but I will send my emissaries right to do the bidding of what I need to have done. I'm just. It's not worth my presence there is not worth. And it shows to a sense of considerable fearlessness, but there's a thin line, right?
Right.
Between fearlessness and foolishness. So, I'm not saying he's foolish at all, but no one deserves to die in their own respective city. But again, when you come to a certain level of status and you are from the streets, it's time to change how you play, right? So definitely, that's a loss. So, rest in peace to all those people that we talked about. As I stated, we would be losing a lot of stars last year. I don't see that on the horizon this year. But of course, every year we have someone that transitions into the ancestors. So that's just a given. But last year, that was a pretty long list. And there was more, right? We just didn't cover them all,
Yeah.
right? But,
Yeah.
definitely interesting enough. One last one I do want to say about it is, I don't know, I think we mentioned him, Clarence Williams III, right? That brother could act. He played in that brother there, yes. Purple Rain. He was Prince's father. He was the devil in Tales from the Hood. He was in
Yeah.
Deep Cover. Um, I mean, a list of movies, right? And could act. I mean, the roles that he would play were just felt on presence. And our good brother here is a producer, so I know you can, chime in with that. You could feel his role. Like you could sense the energy coming through the screen.
Yeah. He got a real distinct style.
Does
It's just that it's the voice, the look in his eyes
the
is
look in his
like,
eye, right? Like he's in a role, something's gonna crack, right?
right. If he's in there, it ain't. There's something going. Him being in the movie alone, there's a surprise factor. Something's
Something's
up
gonna
with him.
twist. Yeah. What was the other one that he played in with Wesley Snipes and Sugar Hill, right?
Yeah.
Sugar Hill, excellent. I mean, he plays a junkie, plays a cop, he plays the devil. And these, when I look at actors, I like Denzel. Don't get me wrong, Denzel. I really enjoy his acting. I think he's a great actor. He carries his roles well, but he's the typecast actor, right? The good guy. He played a bad guy to the T, but he's the good guy. He was even in the bad guy, he was kind of a semi good guy, right? That's
Denzel is always Denzel, but he pulls it off.
That's just right. It's Denzel, but to me,
He's always the
actors,
same guy.
yeah, he's the same guy, right? Same
Yeah.
guy. But I'm talking about
Excellent.
this brother here, right? Plays a crackhead or a junkie, right? Plays the devil, right? Plays a cop. Plays um, Prince's father, a musician that has alcohol issues and so forth. So like himself, Lawrence Fishburne, right?
Right.
The range of acting with these brothers is broad, right? You can put them in a role and they're gonna fulfill their role, whether it's good or bad, right? It's gonna be definitely felt. So, to me, and that's what an actor is it doesn't matter what the role is, they can live it to the max. And definitely, this brother was one of those individuals. So, as the last one before we move on. Rest in peace to him, and condolences to his family as well. So we lost a lot,
Indeed.
folks, and we're going to lose more. But this year, I think, will be a little softer blow. We're still going to see violence. We're going to still see those types of things. But I'm saying, as a laundry list, I don't foresee us having that as a play out, especially with Jupiter being in Pisces, and Pisces is film and things like that. So I don't see it so much. But let's definitely dive into 2022, because we got a few things to talk about, right? And we may actually even do a part 2 to it to cover, maybe even more ground in 2022, because there's so much happening in just the first year, folks, first half of the year, right? We got a lot of information to divulge. So,
Mm-hmm.
interestingly enough, right, we're going to start off with in the next couple of days. In fact, today's the 19th. So by the end of this month, there will be a major conjunction happening. And this conjunction, we really can talk about predictive principles with regards to government, because two planets represent government, the sun and Saturn. And when you have them together, you have to understand that there's a switching, or like a change, not to say per se of roles, but of functions, that the sun becomes the government and Saturn becomes the masses or the people. And that conjunction between Saturn and Sun is going to happen in Capricorn as of January 30th. So we're going to see that take place, right? And it's going to be some definite dissension. And this is not just America, people. It's not just the United States of America. For those of you who listen in Australia, in Ghana, in Asia, in India, right? It happens worldwide. It's not just one nation. This is the whole globe. Mundane astrology includes everybody. So you're going to see in certain areas, especially in those areas where there's already been a kind of level of frustration and disdain, there's going to be major spillover, right? You're going to see governments being handed their ticket, right, by the people, right? Governors, and I would say even, especially in Australia, right? Australia is just right now, man, it is under lockdown. So,
You know what? This is a little bit. It's connected to what we were saying, but I remember, and I have to pull it up. Maybe I'll cut a segment out of it. But we kind of predicted this insurrections too, man.
we did. We did.
Yeah, we did. I remember that we did.
We talked
Or
about
whatnot.
it.
Yeah.
And the cherry on top is going to be right about
In
here.
That's the episode that I want to say. I got to figure it's either the one that we solidified and said Biden's going to win, either that episode, or I can't remember, but I remember we did predict the insurrections, because it was that time it was a lot going on in Cap.
Oh,
It was
definitely.
it was heavy.
Cap has
Yeah,
been lit
yeah,
up.
yeah.
Yeah. Cap has been lit up with Saturn, Jupiter. Anytime those two major planets that conjunct there, which happens only ever so often, right?
Right.
Every so many years, right? Because Saturn takes at least 30 years to make a return, 28 to 30 years, and Jupiter takes 12. So to have it happen in Capricorn is a rarity. And so, in fact, I believe the last time Saturn and Jupiter were conjoined is when Obama was born. Because Obama
Yeah.
has Saturn and
Saturn
Jupiter
and
in
Jupiter.
Capricorn, and he's in his 50s, right?
Right.
So we're talking quite a while. Um, um, so Saturn will conjoin the Sun will conjoin Saturn from January 30th to February the 7th. You're gonna see some definite change, some tickets being handed back to the government, saying, "Look, we're tired of this. We need something else. We need to find another solution." There are going to be, definite clashes with power structures. You might find some governmental shutdowns, right? Don't be surprised if the government takes a hiatus, right, from playing their role or doing what they do, because Saturn's restrictions, its delays, it slows things down, and so you may definitely see those things happen in government. And that's a brief stint from Like I said, January 30th to the 7th. But again, Sun's going to conjunct Saturn every year anyway. But this time is going to be towards the end of Capricorn. And interestingly enough, right, we're going to get a full dose of what it's like to see, when these frustrations come to a boil. So the next piece, and this is a very important piece, people, and I want you to pay attention, because this year there's a lot of movement right around the same time. And in fact, before we get to that, let's talk about some other things before we get to that, right? Let's talk about what's coming up here in the next couple of months, let's say 3 or 4 weeks, right? 3 weeks. There's going to be some intensification there's going to be, let's say, love in the air, right? Well, I don't know about love, right? But there's definitely going to be a lot of lust in the air, right? And this is a long conjunction between Mars and Venus, right? This is a very long, I mean, when I say long, we're talking about from February the 8th until March the 23rd. That's almost 6 weeks, people. It's about 5 weeks, right? No, actually, that's more than this, because February 8th to March 8th, that's 4 weeks. And then that's actually 6-7 weeks of Mars being conjunct Venus. That's a long time, right?
Right.
So
Folks, this is right up here at the top of the screen right here. That's what we're talking about right here. Mars and Venus.
right, that's a long time, people, right? It's a long time. And it does happen in Sag, right? And you got to understand, they follow one another. It's like they're right there walking with each other. So Venus and Mars are going to be hand in hand for 6 to 7 weeks. That's intensity, right? Right. And watch this. Watch what happens right around Valentine's Day, right? Big money. If you are a person that has products, or that you sell products that happen to deal with anything along the lines of, flowers or gifts or anything that kind of has a connection to Valentine's Day, if you're a business person, you definitely want to maximize on this time, because it's going to be a lot of money being spent at that time, right? So definitely get your flowers, get your pick. If you're, a lot of people want to take pictures, or if you own some type of Airbnb or things like that, people take vacations, all those kind of things. People are going to do big ups with Valentine's Day, because Mars is the planet of passion and Venus is the planet of conjugal love. And so it's just going to be intensified, strong propensity for love affairs, right? Infatuations, right? Flings, right? So this is going to be ongoing, right? It's not going to stop. It's a pretty long stint. Other thing you're going to notice, that possessiveness is going to come out of play, right? Mars likes to, right, control, right? It likes to, protect and make sure that, that which I hold dear is considered mine. So possessiveness is going to be a big piece of the puzzle here. And so watch for that. Watch for relationships becoming oriented around, ownership and really possessing someone, because we don't own anyone, folks. We really don't. Right? You really don't even own yourself, to be honest, right? But for all intents and purposes, right, just beware, because what happens with possessiveness is that crimes of passion can ensue, right? And you very well may see crimes of passion come out around this time. So, keep your eyes to the sky and ears to the street. Watch the news. Pay attention, because you may see a lot of different things come out in that time, where people come and they have an outlet of violence around their emotions or their feelings around other people, right? So definitely, and also, of course, in your own personal lives, just make sure that you're very careful if you don't have a secure relationship with someone that you've been in for a considerable time. So if you start, and women, right, be careful, right? Infatuations, obsessions to a degree, right? You hear a lot about, I think I heard about a young lady being murdered not too long ago, through a web dating website, So just be careful. The energies are there, the forces are playing out. And it's not to say that, those dating websites are any more dangerous than meeting someone in a bar or meeting someone in a store. But just be careful, right? Just be mindful that this is what's being played out. Um, Relationships can become volatile, right? So as much as there's a thin line between what?
Love and
Love
hate.
and hate, right? So just be careful, right? That you get so attached and enamored and head over heels that when disappointment hits, people can lash out, people can become abusive or can become aggressive. So just be very 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 careful for that period of time until February 8th, from February 8th until March 23rd. um, Take things with prudence and caution. Just be diligent, be mindful, be aware of how the energy is being gauged inside of your unions and other people's unions. If you see someone that just is getting started and they talk about he's stalking, stalker type energy is created from these types of placements many times. So just be careful, right? Just be mindful. And men are not absolved from it either, right? Women have now shown that they can produce stalker tendencies too. So,
No,
they're
I
not
would say
absolved either.
I would say that it's probably. I mean, oh no, I would yeah. I would definitely. I don't want to say more, but ladies do stalk. That ain't that ain't not a little bit. Some ladies do stalk
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah, definitely that. So
I mean,
just be aware all around, males and females. Love is, like I said, lust is in the air, right?
you might want to put a little
So
wax on your car, make sure it don't get keyed. Brothers out there.
right, your gas tank might be full of something you not used to, right? So just be careful, right? Love and passion will be intensified for quite a while.
Indeed.
And then, interestingly enough, shortly after that, right, the supreme being has a way of saying, you know what? Okay, enough is enough, right? Venus is going to conjoin Saturn almost within days, right, of this particular conjunction that lasts for a good period of time. So, you know, you may be with someone or have been with someone and be like, that didn't work out right. Let me chill out. Let me cool out. Because Venus, when it's with Saturn, makes you think more realistically, right? And this will be from March 27th until April the 2nd. So that 5 day period, 6 days, depending on how you look at it, it's definitely a time when things that fire can be quelched, right, immediately. So if you, right, had someone that you had an eye on and now they don't look all that great from what you're seeing in the realistic terms of things, don't be surprised, because this is some of the things that the atmosphere, the cosmic weather, is going to produce, right? You might wake up that from being love drunk, you know, and being being head over heels, and now you don't even want the person to have your phone number, right? So just be mindful that there can be immediate shut off, immediate turn off, immediate quelching of those energies. So, and that will happen right up until April the 2nd. So, again, right, just like I said, keep your eyes to the sky and ears to the street. That you're using both your mundane existence and your spiritual awareness to understand how things are being played out. Um, Next piece we're going to talk about, and this one is going to be quite interesting, right? Because this really only happens every 2 years or so, right? And the way it's happening is, again, of course, Saturn. It's happened previously, but Saturn is in the more of the edge, kind of the latter degrees of Capricorn. Saturn is at the very, just about to transition into Aquarius. We're going to talk about that briefly here. But Mars will conjunct Saturn here very soon, right? Right around March 31st. So right at the end of, right, these kind of other fired up energies where Mars kind of has left, or Venus has left Mars, right? Because Venus, of course, is a faster moving planet. She's going to leave him, and you might felt like you've been left, right? Right. Um, Mars is going to conjunct Saturn. Now, this is serious business, folks, right? These are two primary first-rate malefics, right? Mars is the first-rate malefic of the chart because violence can produce death and sudden unexpected events, right? K2 is also to me, right? And this is in my estimation, to me, just as potent as Mars, but of course their movements are quite different.
Right.
So Mars gets around a lot faster than K2 does, but K2 is also one of those first-rate blow up the spot type energies. So Mars will conjoin Saturn right around March 31st, and so my good brother here is showing it. Thankful that he's putting it on screen so you can really understand how it looks. It's going to be in Capricorn. So the good news is that it's to some degree it's controlled, meaning that Mars is exalted in Capricorn, right? And Saturn rules Capricorn. Now they're enemy planets, meaning they're not, they're like two chemicals that just don't mix well, like oil and water, as they say. Mars is the gas, Saturn is the brakes. Mars is action, right? Saturn is non-action or delays of action. And so there's kind of the burning of rubber, when you burn rubber, a lot of smoke and, a lot of, energy is expended, but you don't go anywhere. Right. And that can create a high level of angst and frustration amongst the world and in the communities and in people's lives. So this is a time when you should also just really take it easy, right? Lay back, relax, right? Allow those forces to blow over because they do. It's only going to last until April the 12th, right? It's not that long. It's only maybe a couple weeks at best. So, at this time, good time to meditate. Good time to really internally review what you're trying to achieve and the goals that you want to accomplish and where you've made mistakes and where you can do better in achieving those goals. Definitely something to be mindful of at this time. In addition to that, right, I mean, just overall in the world, it does produce many times rioting. So we've been seeing rioting. I mean, it's almost like when you turn the news on, you see it as like, oh yeah, right, they're over there in Austria cutting up, right, because they're under certain levels of restrictions, and the government is playing this out so that they can, try to quote unquote control COVID, which obviously, in my estimation, it hasn't worked, right, because Omicron is done its deal, right. It has spread worldwide. I mean, I remember when I was watching the news, and I think where I'm in Colorado, we had one of the very first cases of Omicron, right? I mean, the next thing you know, it was California. Next thing you know, it was New York. Next thing you know, it was Chicago, Illinois. Then it was Georgia. It's just like it, and then now, right? It's everywhere. So, and people are asking me, is this the end of COVID? No.
No.
Right. Right.
No.
It's not. Right. Sorry, folks. I just, I got to tell you how TI is, right? It's not over, right? Will we see some quelling down of it? Yes, right. Because you have to understand what is happening, and you have to compare it to, before we move on to the other kind of transits that are upcoming, you have to compare it to China, right? China has been living like this, folks, for a long time, right? You ever wonder why you saw people in China with masks on? It's not the smog, right? SARS has been there for a long time. Right?
Mm-hmm.
SARS has been in China for a long time, people. It's not like this is something new. This is something that they are quite used to. I used to always wonder, I don't know about you, Tev, you brother, but did you ever wonder, like, you saw them wear masks? It's like, why do the Chinese wear masks all the time? Now
Well,
we know
yeah.
why. Right?
Yeah. You know, I hang out in Chinatown a lot and stuff like that. So it's just flu season come around.
Right.
They're on.
That's the, like
Always have been.
it's part of what they do. Well, this is what
Right.
it's going to be like for us, right? For a while, right? You know, I told you last year, right? And some people have made hopeful predictions, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's absolutely a-okay for us to try to think the best of situations. Nothing wrong with that. But when you look at how things work, you have to understand, you know, what
Gotta tell the truth.
the name of my astrological company is Kala Purusha Astrology, right?
Right.
And you won't find that in that name is specific. I chose that name because Kala Purusha is what is time personified, right? Right. Purusha is the cosmic man, and Kala, like he's talking about Kali, Kala is time. Kal is time. So it's time personified as the cosmic man. And when you understand the cosmic man, as above, so below. So when we look at, let's say, for instance, planets, right? Inside of your body, you have the same constituents inside of you that the cosmic man has in it. And you are in the cosmic man. And the cosmic man is vice versa. And you, the macrocosmic and the micro, as above, so below. So when you look at how things move, one of the things that you know from someone is to know their health is to know the state of the liver in a person's body, right? The liver is a tell-all of how a person functions in regards to their health. So if you have a healthy liver, and the liver can regenerate, it's the only organ that can regenerate itself. It can grow back. So the liver takes a lot of abuse from the greasy foods that people eat, the high level of sugars, stress, lack of rest, you name it, the liver takes a licking and keeps on ticking, right? Well, in the cosmic arrangement of things, the liver is a tell-all for how the cosmic weather is what it's going to produce. And I know that when unless Jupiter is in a fiery sign, fiery sign is like when you take those hot herbs, right? Cayenne, ginger, things that are purgative, right?
Horseradish.
Horseradish, radish, right? Things that really move the body and increase the heat in the body. And remember, the heat in the body, right? When you have a fever, the body's actually doing what it's supposed to do. It's trying to burn out, right? The toxins or the infection in your body. So, one of the things that we do in Chinese medicine is we keep the fever at a temperate level. We don't get rid of the fever, right? We quell the fever, but we don't shut it out completely because the fever is helping you, really, right? When your fever is in your body, the immune system is in high gear, right? So you don't want to bring it back down to 98.6 or 99 or whatever your regulatory temperature is, because it's sometimes different for different people. But you want to keep it just above, right where it's not necessarily comfortable, but not dangerous, right? And allow the body to do its business. So in the process of this, right, you're burning these things out. The heat that comes through is helping the body. So my point is saying that Jupiter has to be in a hot sign, right? A lot of people thought that the COVID was going to be quelched by Rahu being in Taurus. Rahu doesn't work that way, people. The northern node doesn't work that way. Why? Because the northern node is ruled by a planet, and that planet, as it moves, has an impact on how Rahu functions.
Right.
Right. You can't put Rahu as the complete way out, right? It doesn't work that way. So people said, a lot of astrologers said that, it's going to be stabilized with Rahu. Has it been stabilized? No. Right. Right. But what is the planet that What is the only planet that can deal with Rahu? Jupiter, right? So when Jupiter is in a highly accentuated modality of being in a fire sign, Aries henceforth, which will be as of April 20, I believe April 20, I want to say 23rd of next year. Yes, April 21st, excuse me, of next year, right? Jupiter will be out of Pisces and into Aries. And we're going to cover that here in just a minute. But just so you know, right, that COVID is not over, right? It's not even in the it may be in some stretches where we see some other
That's
type
it right there.
strains produce, right? Exactly, right. But we're not out of the woods yet, folks. It's gonna be with us for a while. Just expect it and be at peace with it so that you can navigate properly. And here's the beautiful part about it. I mean, it's a curse and a blessing at the same time because I've had it, right? Had mine last year, and they say you can get it again, right? The different strain produces a different effect and so forth. So be it. But what it did show me is my immune system is strong enough to handle it, right? I was down and out for 3 weeks. My person was literally shut down, right? So, but I prevailed. So my body's able to handle whatever it throws, right? I'm fairly healthy, of course, for my age and for my weight and health and so forth. So I'm okay. But the thing about it is that it gives you immunity, right? And they talk about herd immunity, which that's a kind of touchy subject for some people, but it does have some credence in that. It's hitting every home, right? I don't know about you, brother. I'm hearing people left and right. COVID, 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 COVID. I'm like, wow, it's
My daughter
rampant.
had COVID.
Is she really?
Yeah, she did.
Wow. So it's hitting every home, people. It's hitting every home, right? And I'm not
She was
saying I'm
cool.
not okay. That's
She,
good.
she I mean, you wouldn't have known it, but she had a mild grade fever for about
Mhm.
2 weeks and stuff like
Okay.
that. My mate, she had it. I didn't. I mean, when I tested, I didn't have it. I don't know if I had it in the midst of that, but I didn't. I didn't have. I haven't had a positive test, but they definitely had it.
Right.
Yeah.
So it hits every home, right? Excuse me. And now they're immune, right? To some degree, right? So these things have to play itself out. So just as as a kind of piggyback on some of the things that people have stated and what I've stated, right? COVID is not going to be gone in 2022.
No.
And it's not going to be gone. It wasn't gone in 2021, and it won't be completely gone in 2023. But what we will notice, and Jupiter being in the sign and it's going to be in here very soon, it's going to change the dynamic of it to some degree. Now, just before we move into these other transits that are coming up, again, Mars conjuncting Saturn can produce some revolutions, right? What I predict is that Russia and the Ukraine will have some issues, right? And let me tell you why. Because Russia is chomping at the bit, right, to really push that button. They're like, ooh, we could do it, but do we want to do it? Do we want to deal with NATO? Do we want to deal with America? Do we want to, have to, put Biden and Putin in the ring, right?
Yeah, it's
Wouldn't
a
that
lot
be a
of
show? Right?
it's a lot of global political theater going on right now.
Geopolitical, yeah, plays at hand, definitely.
Yeah.
But wouldn't that be interesting, Tef, if we just said, you know what, all the wars, all that done, let's just put the leaders in there and see, let's just go, let them go at it, right? Uh, Biden would be whooped in about 4.3 seconds, right? Because Putin's no joke, right? He got
Nah,
hands,
he's
right?
man. Yeah, I mean, he's jiu-jitsu. He trains every day.
He got hands, right?
But beyond having hands, he's just, you could see it, like the discipline, the
Yeah,
just shrewdness, you know what I mean? Like he's
yeah.
a killer. He's a
Former
cold killer.
KGB.
Yeah,
Former,
I don't mean
the,
like he out here capping people, but I'm talking about like, he
oh, I'm sure
he
he's capped a
he
few. Yeah,
yeah, he's just wired that way. Like he'll
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So if we said, you know what, let's just, we might have to put Mike in office, Iron Mike, right?
Right.
Right. And let Mike Tyson do what he does, right? Because Mike, right, the baddest man on the planet, right? But nonetheless, it would be interesting to see. I mean, it wouldn't be much of a fight. I'm sure Russia would be ready to take over any minute because Putin would put in that work. But but nonetheless, the country can take on a lot of the energies of the leader. Is my real point, right?
Right.
And I don't know Putin's chart. We might look at it at some point when we have come closer to that time period and maybe have a brief, just kind of
We peeked at
interjection
it in
about it.
Patreon last year.
Did you?
In the Patreon, yeah. He's well, according to the most reliable time out there, he is Libra ascendant.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? That's
Yeah.
interesting. But so was Adolf, right? So
Yeah, it's similar. Yeah, moon. Yeah, it's, moon's in Taurus.
wow, that's interesting. I wonder if it's in Kritika.
I think it is Critica. Yep.
It makes sense. Rohini doesn't fit him at all, right?
Oh no, man. He's
Yeah,
Putin to cut you.
yeah, for real, right? All right. So some national calamities, right? Overthrow of rulers, and like I said, the Ukraine situation is so sensitive. They talk about America is to blame for the Ukraine, but you know, if they invade the Ukraine at this time, don't be surprised, right? Don't be shocked, and remember we talked about it here first, so that you can have kind of a preview of what potentially can happen because Saturn is borders, people, right? It's restrictions. Restrictions are borders, barriers. Things that don't allow other people to cross over or to move through. And so those
Right.
restrictions, those barriers, is going to be definitely titillated, right, by military force, right? Mars is military force, the want and need to drive into other areas, to push, to create that kind of energy that says, "Hey, that's all about me and mine, and we coming to get you and yours," right? So just be interested. And it may even, here's the thing, that period, because we're going to talk about something here very briefly here in just a second. That may be a precursor to what we're going to talk about here next. But just know that civil wars, boundaries can be encroached, right? In fact, Mars and Saturn will be in China's ascendant, and we're going to do China this year, folks, right? So those
Indeed.
of you in India, we got the time dead on, right? We got the lock, stock, and barrel on China, so we're gonna do China and tighten them up. But China is a Capricorn ascendant, and Mars and Saturn will be in that ascendant. So there might be some saber rattling in China as well, right? So just be mindful of that right around March, end of March, early April. Um, and so it's gonna stoke the fire with China. China's good friends with Russia. And if China's feeling froggy, why not Russia, right? But the thing is that what happens after April 12th, right? Let's talk about that next. So the next piece we're going to get into is Rahu's big change. Now, this is where I want to kind of make an addendum and really push us into what is going to come up here this year, in that after April 12th, 13th of this year, planets are going to be changing signs, right? Jupiter is going to move right out of Aquarius. And in the beginning of the year, Jupiter in Aquarius is kind of cool because what most people don't know, per Power Shara, is that Jupiter is akin to exaltation in Aquarius. It's like being exalted,
Right.
right? So there's some benefit. The 4 months that we've got Jupiter in Aquarius, remember, Aquarius is a sign of humanity, a sign of many walks of life, many peoples, many ideations, many ideologies, many perceptions, right? And Jupiter being there has calmed the storm to some degree.
Right.
So you're seeing there's very little talk about any type of real war type stances since Jupiter's moved in November. Jupiter is, and there's an excellent article by Sanjay Roth. My students and I just went over it last weekend. They were quite impressed, and it's a very interesting article. You should look it up. It's Sanjay Roth, and it's titled, I think one of it's called Brahma Yoga. And when Jupiter is in Aquarius, it produces a Brahma Yoga. It produces high-minded thinkers, deep thinkers, kind of like Albert Einstein. He has Jupiter in on Aquarius in the ninth house. It is house specific, of course, too. But nonetheless, Jupiter in Aquarius does produce at a very much more calming energy, right? And we are actually still in the Kal Sarpa Yoga too. It did begin last year. We're going to be in it for a little while here, coming up soon. But nonetheless, right, moving into what we're talking about next, and keep in mind from April the 12th to April the 28th, you got 3 planets moving signs. So you got Jupiter moving into to Pisces as of April the 14th. You've got Rahu and Ketu moving out of their quote unquote, and I say quote unquote very specifically, quote unquote exaltation signs, because I really don't ascribe Rahu or Ketu to be exalted in any sign, right, or debilitated. It
Right.
depends on the lord of that particular sign and what it's doing. Because if that lord is strong, then Rahu is producing very, very healthy or vibrant energies. If it's debilitated or if it's challenged or compromised, then of course the same goes as well. So you have to look at the lord and its placement more so than just where Rahu is placed. And also the nakshatra tells a lot as well. So you
Right.
can't just go on Rahu being in Taurus as exalted, or Rahu in Gemini, or some people say Rahu. And here's the thing: some people say Rahu in Scorpio is in his own Mulak Chakona sign. There's so much conjecture because they're nodes and they're mysterious for a reason, and they're built that way. So
Right.
you have to know the know of the know to know what they're doing and where they are, because I've seen phenomenal astrologers have Rahu in Scorpio, and they do quite well and don't have a bit of what we would perceive as negative outputs from what they produce. So you just have to really look at it. But nonetheless, Rahu will and Ketu will be moving into their new signs for the next 19 months, right? As of April the 13th, April 12th, 13th, right? And then Saturn will be moving out of Capricorn for a brief stint as of April 28th. So April is a big month. If you ever noticed, we've got a lot going on in April, people, right?
Yeah.
A lot of stuff popping in April. So April is going to be quite a doozy to see how these things really begin to shift, because when planets ingress, when they moving from one sign to another, you can tell and see things are going to change and shift. So
And you know what?
definitely buckle.
Saturn's been in Capricorn for a long
Long
time.
And guess what?
Gee whiz.
And guess what?
It's gonna be in there much longer.
It's gonna be in there for a long time, right?
Gee whiz.
Yeah, man. Saturn in Capricorn is making sure that you pay your dues. Look, I mean, better there than Aries, right?
Right.
Right? Hey, look, I'll take Saturn, for cardinal ascendants like you and me, brother. It's producing a Mahapurusha Yoga.
Yeah.
It's not comfortable, as they say, but it's definitely getting the work done.
Yeah,
Right?
Saturn's been on my been looking at my ascendant for like the past.
Right. And saying, yeah, right. We putting that work in, right? So it's about building structures. It's about construction. It's about putting things in proper perspective. It's about being realistic. It's about being dutiful. It's about being responsible. It's about handling your business. It's about preparation. It's about looking towards the future. It's about all those things, right? Saturn in Capricorn is probably a very good place for it because, again, Capricorn is an earth sign. So you're getting materialistic things managed.
Yeah.
Right. So to me, it's excellent, right? I am not complaining, right? Because trust me, when it gets into Aries, we're going to have a different conversation, right? This podcast will still be here. We're going to still be talking about some very interesting topics. And when it's there, trust and believe, right? It is going to be an interesting next 2.5 years, right?
Oh, yeah.
So
By that time, we'd be, yeah. Well, you see
yeah,
what we look like in that time. You know what I'm saying?
oh boy, right? Oh boy, right? But Saturn's gonna be in Capricorn. He'll exit into Aquarius until June, right? He'll be in Aquarius. He'll hang out for a little bit there, right around 1 degree, right? So those of you that have planets at, let's say, 1 degree Aquarius, 1 degree Leo, right, 1 degree Taurus, which would square it, or 1 degree um, Scorpio, right? It's going to square, right? Those particular between Taurus and Scorp, and it's going to oppose if you have something in Leo. So, or it's going to conjunct if you have something in Aquarius. So, right around 1 degree, and it's going to stop right there. And guess what? Go right back. A little tease, right? A little tease, right? Not done yet, right? And so it's going to go right back into Capricorn until January of next year, right? So, hey, Capricorn it is, right? Take the bitter with the sweet.
Indeed.
But interestingly enough, Rahu is going to move. Let's give some positive things first, right? Because, I don't want to seem all doom and gloom. And it's not that, none of these things are doom and gloom. It's really all preparation and knowledge. And if you use it properly, any transit, positive or positive, any transit, challenging or not, can be productive, can be enlightening, can be life-changing, right? So it's not about being bad or good. It's really about how you use it and how you actualize these forces in your life, in your inner world. And spirituality, meditation, consulting, getting consultations done, those things really put things in proper perspective, and it helps you realize how much of an advantage you have in these times. Because consider, right, we're in an age of information, not knowledge, information. And so why not use what's being put in front of you and take advantage? So by all means, right, wow for all of the things that we experience, right, with these particular movements of the heavens. So Jupiter's going to be in Pisces, right? April 13th, April 14th is going to move right on into Pisces, and it's going to be there for a year. And the nice thing about this is that it's going to be there for a year. Jupiter kind of teased us a little bit with Aquarius, right?
Mm-hmm.
If like it went into Aquarius, nope, going back to Capricorn, right? And then it stayed in Capricorn, and then it just did it's going to do a 4-month run through of Aquarius.
Aquarius. Jeez.
Like, whoa. like I get 4 months, right? Hey, take it or leave it, right? But it's going to be in Pisces for a good year, right? Until April 21st of next year. So we got a full year of Jupiter in Pisces, and a lot of positive outflowing energy in Pisces. The number one thing I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to tell you this, right? Because I got on my eye for the year. My brother knows, right? He called me out on it earlier, right? If you know, then you know. If you looking at the camera, you should know, right, what you're looking at, right? I'm not going to tell you, right? But yeah, right. My whole year has been built on this whole Jupiter and Pisces piece, right? But one of the things that you should do, and this is healthy, and we're talking about the liver, right? One thing you should do is forgive the transgressions of those that have transgressed against you, right? This is the time to do it, right? Not when it's in Aries, not when it's in Taurus, right? Not when it's in Sag. You want to do it when Jupiter is in Pisces, because this gives you, right? Peace, Awani. Hey, sis, right? You want to definitely take advantage of forgiving the debts that people have to you. Seriously, right? This is the time. This is the time to allow old, right, issues, baggage, let it go, right? Let it go. And what it will do is lighten the energy in the auric field around you to attract the same thing to you, right? Those people that may have felt that you might have paid them some injustice or not done them properly or made them feel appropriate will also have the unknowing, unaware urge to do the same thing. Doesn't mean you go jump into bed with your enemy or you go befriend someone that has it out for you, but it does mean that you, in your inner realm, in your spirit, in your mind, in your heart, you let it go, right? Because everyone has a destiny. Everyone has something that they're here to deal with. And so in that, those transgressions that are perceived against us, no man can really be against you anyway, right? If you really understand the laws of the spirit. So it's a time to let bygones be bygones, right? Not talking about sweeping under the rug, but actually pulling the rug back and taking and cleaning from under the rug and saying, you know what? It's helped me develop peace. It's helped me develop an understanding. It's helped me develop to see the big picture. It's helped me develop to understand that everyone has crossroads and challenges, and to let those things be what they are and to move on beyond them.
Right.
Right. If everyone begin to do that, then the people that rule, right, that run the governments, that run the nations, that run the world, that are in positions of authority and power, would have the ultimate cause and effect, right? The morphogenic process to do that. Right? Morphogenic resonance is a process whereby one part of a species does something, the other part picks it up by proxy, unbeknownst to themselves. And emotions are contagious. So the more you forgive, the more you are forgiven, and the more others are forgiven as well. So this is the time to do that, because you're going to need it for the next year, right? You're going to need to let things go. You're going to need to see the bigger picture. You're going to need to have faith, right? I'm not talking about blind faith. I'm not talking about faith that just doesn't have any. Real faith has reason and understanding behind it. So
Optimism.
absolutely, brother. Being
Yeah.
completely optimistic
Right.
as much as you possibly can, even in the midst of dire, seemingly straits, having that optimism, because you know what? It opens the door. The liver energy, the liver chi has a major part of the aura. It affects the eyes, right? And the eyes is what we see with, right? So that liver, the cosmic liver, and the liver in your particular body, and the livers that are around you, right? One of the things that our ancestors, the ancient priests and priestesses, would do is we take the entrails, but one of the things they, in fact, in the one of the four canopic jars, right? The liver is one of the organs, right? And the liver is called, the canopic jar that is in is called imset. Set henceforth is part of the word, so that Setian adversarial kind of, right, envious energy that's in there, right? If you clear it out, the ancients used to take it and look at the liver and could tell what kind of life that you lived, right? So it's important because the four canopic jars of Haru, right, talks about your will, how much control you have over your emotional body. And if you forgive, it feels like a burden has been lifted. So Jupiter is in Pisces is the time to do that worldwide, right? Optimism, as my brother said, right? Dealing in having optimism, looking at things from a longer term perspective, and knowing that all things change for the better ultimately. Maybe it doesn't seem like it. Maybe it seems like we got to go through some challenges, but ultimately, when you are purged and have gone through things, you're a better, stronger individual. So, right? And some people will call it hope. Hope is really not a word I would use, just because hope is the last thing that came out of Pandora's box,
Mm.
right? And all the troubles and the woes, right, befell before finally some hope came. So hope is not a word I would really use, but ultimately charity, right? Altruism, right? Being altruistic, being able to see that man is a whole, and what you do to him, you do to yourself. What you do to her, you've done to yourself. You can't keep someone down without staying down yourself, right? So this is the energy that will be prevalent that will be kind of trying to come out in the world. You'll see, right, a lot of charitable organizations producing things in the world, a lot of people helping the downtrodden, helping people that are the have-nots and so forth. This is going to be the theme that you will primarily see from April to April of this year to next year. This is what will happen. Now, here's the interesting part about it, right? There's a twofold side to this thing. In America, right, what is going to happen, and I know this is one of those seemingly kind of challenging issues, but inflation is going to go sky high. Yeah. Right. Because Jupiter, and if you look at our chart here we have on the screen, we've got Jupiter, right, in the seventh house in Gemini. If you take a look where Jupiter is there, they're squaring one another. It's called a square in Western aspects in Western astrology, which does work. And that square is going to produce what we call a tension, a tensor, right? A point of where, one energy is going one way and another energy is going another way, and they run cross current, and then cross current creates a point, and that point creates, right, something that increases or grows, especially with regards to Jupiter. So one of the things I definitely want to tell you to do is watch your spending. Watch your spending, right? Because inflation is going to go nuts this year, right? Jupiter, when it squares in a chart, right, in that nation, prices are going to go what?
Oh, yeah.
And if you haven't noticed,
it's already there. Yeah. It's already creeping on the come up.
Supply and demand is going to be even more so.
Right.
So the cost of things is going to just increase and exponentially grow until you begin to understand that, wait a minute, let me begin to what? Pull back. Let me do more with what? Less. Right? And that's part of that faith process, right? Having the ability to, understand that sharing, right, is a part of life, right? That's what Jupiter and Pisces is all about. Like I said, altruism, sharing, combining forces. I don't like you. I didn't like you. You didn't like me. But you know what? We need each other. Let's see if we can work things out to become a better whole. Because it's going to be needed. Not only is Jupiter squaring Jupiter, right, but it's also going to square Venus. And Venus is money.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the fourth house. Now, the fourth house is going to have some interesting kind of playouts here, right? In that the infrastructure bill, right, is going to try to push that through, but it's not going to be bipartisan, excuse me, right? There's going to be some locks there because Saturn is directly in opposition to it, right? They're going to try to push the bill through, and it may get through, but it's going to be through some challenges, right? But we do need infrastructure to be rebuilt, and that's the fourth house. Is the inner kind of world of what the country is producing. Go ahead.
It already passed.
Oh, it did pass. That's excellent.
Yeah,
that's even better.
Right. Back in November, $1 trillion.
Oh, good. Then that's even better. So then that bipartisan is null and void, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Or the partisan aspect of it is null and void. So that release would give us some more access. But again, that's still spending, isn't it?
Right.
That's still spending. We don't escape it, right? It's still they got to spend money to do this, which produces jobs, right? As we talked about, right? It's going to produce some jobs, right? And there's jobs everywhere right now.
You're going to see more toll roads. The highways, different things that they're building as expansions. You're going to see more. So like you're seeing the expanse of the infrastructure, but they're going to also be they're going to be also shaking you down at the same time as well, because that's how they pay for them roads. So you'll see a new highway. I mean, there's one, there's a couple being built right now in the Atlanta area. Toll roads and different things like that. So,
henceforth, money got to transact, right?
Right.
So
they're going to get that trillion back.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're going to recoup that because they got to buy more rockets and bombs, right?
Right.
That's the real spending, right? That's where we really want to put the money, right?
Space Force, they got funds,
Right, the Space Force. We gotta have rockets in space against the aliens, right? Right. Not against, bogus leaders and, greedy governments. No, no, we need to fight the aliens, right?
or
But
or
nonetheless,
somebody,
right?
some of them need to, some of them planning an escape, planning an exit strategy.
They're gonna try to escape. Gonna be the same thing over there, right? They'll
I
meet
told you in that
themselves,
movie,
right?
that the movie Don't Look Up, they landed at a habitable planet. And they seem to be in their prehistoric or dinosaur age.
Right.
Landed there and got ate up.
You ain't gonna escape nothing, right? You gotta work it out, or it ain't gonna work, right?
Right.
Interesting.
Spoiler.
Right? Definitely, right? They're big spoiler. Extreme market fluctuations, right?
Mm-hmm.
Jupiter is big money. Jupiter is the banking system, right? So you might find that the not just the taxes, but the what is that they approve every year? Um, it's not the interest rate, but it is kind of like the interest rate. I guess it would be the interest rate. That's
Mm-hmm.
gonna definitely have a major impact on the financial kind of markets this year. So you're gonna see the markets flux,
Yeah.
right? They're not gonna be stable, people. And if you're into crypto, that's gonna flux too, right? Might be some big bubbles that pop over there, right? And they're always popping in crypto. That's nothing new, right?
Yeah.
But domestic life will definitely be called attention to as far as America is concerned. Education is going to definitely come under some interesting changes. There's a lot of arguments around education right now just because of COVID. Homeschooling is, I believe in Chicago, they shut the school system down, right? Just because, people feel unsafe. They feel like they want to homeschool and they want to kind of ride this out until COVID is presented another, until there's other options or other things that are going to take place. So, be expecting that education is going to have some back and forth processes as well. Not going to be as smooth. Everybody's going back to school type piece. It's going to be some interesting compromises, if you will. So that's definitely
Right.
going to pan out, and this is for the entire year. Cost
think
of
about the
rent is
housing?
going to go up.
I was just about to ask what you think. I said what you think about the
Cost
housing
of rent
market.
is going to bubble, man.
Yeah.
It's going to increase. People talk about Jupiter. Jupiter is growth, and the thing about it is that growth, it's not all. It's called growing pains for a reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
Growing pains, like the cost of rent is going to increase everywhere, right? Because what you're having is migrations. I was watching the news the other day, and they talk about a lot of people move to South Carolina, right? Because South Carolina has fairly low rent, right? Low crime and things like that. Well, guess what? Wherever you move, those people get a chance to take the rent, and guess what? They increase it, right?
Yep, that's what's happening
So
here in Atlanta. Atlanta's is packed, but it's still a lot of room. But the all of the housing market, rent, all that stuff like that is definitely going
right,
up. It's no longer the affordable place to live like it used to be.
exactly,
Yeah.
right. And so this is going to continuously happen with the cost of living. The cost of living itself is going to increase,
Oh yeah.
and the pay rate's not going to increase though, right? They're not going to do a cost of living increase. I think the last cost of living increase I heard of was 7 years ago.
So you talking about from the government, or because a lot of
No,
companies.
not the minimum wage. No, I'm talking about there was a big, like, nationwide. I don't know if you remember it. It was quite a while ago, but a lot of companies gave you kind of compensatory pay for.
Companies still do that. It just depends on how
They,
solvent
they,
they are.
it depends, but I mean, it was a larger kind of
Mm-hmm.
outpour of it. I mean, a lot of people were complaining, so that's not going to happen this year, though. You can cancel that,
Mm-hmm.
right? Your companies ain't gonna be doing it because they're gonna be dealing with inflation, right? The cost of things are going to increase for them as well. So, it's just interesting, like domino effect, that one thing happens and the others kind of, fall into place. But, that's what you can expect for the next year with regards to Jupiter being in the fourth house again. Um, like we talked about, infrastructure is going to definitely be recapitulated, roads, things like that, byways, highways, but again, the cost is we're gonna have to foot the bill, right? That's gonna increase, of course, other areas like we talked about tolls, cost of rent and property, cost of rent itself, housing is gonna increase. Homelessness will also increase too, and that's where the charity will be needed. You follow, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's where the charitable organizations will have to step in, right, and begin to fill in the gaps because again, people are going to continuously have to find some place to live because these things are just part of the process. So, inflation, as I stated, right, market fluctuations, all these things are kind of what 2022 is going to hold for us. Now, last piece of the puzzle, right? Good old Rahu and Ketu. I wasn't going to leave them out. Trust me, right? They're going to move, right? And as they move, well, we get to see what, if you ever want to know what they do, now you're going to get a chance to see. Now, let me tell you a secret about how it works. If you want to know what Rahu is kind of going to look like when it enters a sign, is you find the ruler of the planet where it's going to be placed, as it moves into that sign. And Mars will just be finishing up the conjunction with Saturn. Remember?
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's going to move into Aquarius. When Rahu is in Pisces, Rahu's in Aries, Ketu's in Libra, is going to move right into Aquarius. Right? Let's see what we got on the screen here. Right there it is. Right. Right there. Right. It's going to move right in there. So Rahu is going to be in Aquarius, Ketu is going to be in Libra, and Rahu's going to be in Aries, Ketu be in Libra as Mars moves into Aquarius. And Mars will be in a what? Enemy sign.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Going to be an enemy sign. It's not going to be hunky dory. So what does Rahu and Aries do? Makes things hyper competitive. Makes the atmosphere hyper competitive. Right? The ambition to win. Right? The thrill for primacy. This is what Rahu and Aries does, right? Obsessions of being first. The obsession of being number one. I got to be number one. It's the inflation of me first mentality.
Yeah.
Right? Right? Magnifies aggression.
With that inflation, you're going to need it.
Now you see what I said, right?
You're going to need it.
Right. Now you understand why I gave you the good before I give you the real deal, right? Right?
Man.
This is the dragon of challenge and war.
Yeah.
This is the dragon of challenge and war. Now, when we talk about Ukraine and Russia, be on the lookout, right? Right? No, Rahu's in Aries, Awani, right? Rahu's in Aries, right? Mars will be in Aquarius.
Right here. I switched it to the circular. I think it sometimes
it makes it sometimes a little easier to right. Thank you, brother.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Right. So, interestingly enough, right? The demon of self-promotion is released.
That's an interesting way to put it.
Right. The demon of self-promotion is going to run rampant for the next 19 months until October 30th of 2023. That demon of I got to promote me above all others, right, is going to be released. It's insatiable independence, a thirst that cannot be quenched, right? Now, the opposite at the same time, of course, K2 moves through Libra, and this disintegrates this disintegrates diplomacy.
Right.
Right?
Right.
It separates agreements and contracts. Now you see where we're headed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nullifies cooperation.
Yeah.
Cooperation, what? It's all about who? Me. Uncoordinated, unsustainable mediations. Right? Not scary, right? Just look 20 years, 19 years back and you'll see it, right? That's all you have to do, right?
Right.
If you want to know what it looks like, just go back in time, right? Because cycles what? Repeat themselves.
Yep.
Nothing scary, right? But definitely to be mindful of, right? Especially if you have planets in Rahu or you have planets in K2. If your ascendant is, that's not planets in Rahu. If you have planets in Aries or planets in Libra, right? Just things to be mindful of. If you're Aries, excuse me, ascendant, Libra ascendant, pay attention.
04. Yeah, think
Right,
about
04,
04.
right?
Yeah.
Go back to 04, right? Trying to think. You can go back and look at things that happened in 04. You can Google it. It shows you things that happened in 04. We're still here after 04, right?
Right.
Right. Everybody's still here. Nothing, right? Just right. But you did have some Afghanistan things happening, though.
Right.
That was a major thing at that time. And we're out of Afghanistan now. And there's always a new war to fight or a new place to invade or a new place to sustain. And I'm really thinking that Ukraine is going to have a big play in this, right?
China.
I really see that. Right? Not to say we're going to be at war, but watch China as well. Right? Watch China as well. Don't sleep on China, folks. China is saber rattling, right? They want Taiwan back, right? They want Taiwan back. Go do your history on what Taiwan is. Most people don't know what Taiwan is.
Yeah, and see that move is going to put the United States in a almost impossible position.
It is, well, not only the United States, but you're absolutely right, no, but not only the United States, it's going to put the world in a position. Because,
well, that's what because it's going to is all right. Are you a protector, protector of democracy or not?
wait,
right?
Not only that though, not only that. You're right though. No, you're absolutely right on that. Dead on. But Taiwan makes 80% of the 80% of the world's microchips.
Yeah.
I don't think maybe people don't catch that when I say it. Right? Microchips, right? Microchips, right? Everything that you deal with on a daily basis has some type of microchip in it.
Right.
80% of the world. See, China, it's chess, not checkers. They go to Africa to set up to get cheaper prices on the minerals, the mineral wealth in Africa, primarily the coltan.
Right.
Once you have a good lead in the coltan and you build up the African infrastructure, they give it to you at cheap rates, right? Well, if they co-opt Taiwan and they have access to control of the 80% of the world's microchips, that's more potent than cars. That's more potent than automobiles. You name it. Anything you can think of, they're going to have access to control.
Right.
Missiles have microchips. See, it's not just the fact that America has to stand up for quote unquote democracy. When you do a little history and go back in time, Taiwan is the big FU to China,
Right.
right? See, the Chinese were fighting right before in the 1940s, because we're going to talk about this when we do the Chinese China chart, right? But Taiwan is the big FU to China. All of the people that wanted a different type of government went to Taiwan.
Right.
And so they've been there since. And China's like, well, we've been planning for the last 30 years. We want you. I liked you and I want you. Right. Right. We could do it the easy way or we could do it the hard way. Right. The choice is yours, right? But they're going to at some point they're going to try to get Taiwan back. That's why America has positioned themselves with Australia, right? There was a big thing last year about Australia not purchasing 40 submarines from France, and here's the thing: America gave Australia them 40 old nuclear subs. I don't think
Right.
you catch it. They were old. The America spends more militarily than all nations, even China combined. So that infrastructure that they're building, that 1 trillion that they get, oh no, we're gonna get that back.
Mm-hmm.
Because we got more rockets, missiles, and drones to build. Right.
Right.
There's no way America can stand toe to toe with China, one pound for pound, militarily speaking, man to man. But they did say that per every man that China has, they got 4 drones. It's a war of robotics and technology now, not the traditional hands, boots on the ground type deal. That's over, right? But
Yeah.
it's strategic geopolitical structures where now America, Australia, and Great Britain have made this pact, right, to coalesce in this type of union, right? And remember, K2 and Libra are deal breakers,
Mm-hmm.
right? Deal breakers are going to be prevalent, right? Disengagement from partnerships, right? So I'm just showing you how these things set up, how they unfold. Unable to stick to mediations, right? They can't stick. It can't stick. K2 is like Teflon. It can't stick. And Libra is the process of mediating, balancing, right? It stifles balance and equanimity, right? It's a vacuum of negotiations. This is what we are dealing with for the next 19 months after
Right.
April here comes up soon. So again, right, Jupiter in Pisces is going to be well welcomed, right?
Oh yeah.
Right, for the bountiful free flowing energy that the liver that cosmic liver needs to flow for the planet to feel a lot better, to get through these kind of kind of frustrating waters, if you will. Right,
Because it's gonna get real
it's gonna
in the
get
coming
real.
years.
And the thing about it is, in America's chart, you can see Rahu enters the 5th house, which is the house of speculation and investments. And speculation, really, right? It's kind of stock market kind of oriented. And so the rich are definitely going to do their deal, right? Because they got money to spare. And remember, JP Morgan said millionaires don't use astrology, billionaires do,
Right.
right? K2 is going to be in the 11th house of gains. And let me tell you, folks, we're going to talk about this throughout the season. We may come up very soon. America is a Sagittarius ascendant. Trust me, right?
Oh yeah.
It is, right? The 11th house is the house of gains. Gains happens to be through negotiations, through fair trade, right? That's why they have isn't fair trade one of the biggest themes in government?
Mm-hmm.
That's the 11th house for America, right? So K2 being in that position, fair trade is going to definitely feel like you're getting your money's worth, like when you spend, right? And when you try to make money, it's not going to be the same commensurate return of your output for that period of time. So wise investments, Rahu being in the fifth house, right? Rahu is trends, right? Trends, fads. So fads will come and they will what? Go quick, because Mars is a fast planet. It creates things that are quick. So, this is what you can expect, right? For until October 30th of 2023, but especially as we move into this position of, having these changes come about in April. So after April, folks, right? Right, the lid will be off the box, but like I said, we will have Jupiter in Pisces, which will at least try to assuage, right, some of these kind of forces, but it will also produce some very interesting things along the lines as well. So, right,
Indeed.
we've definitely covered a lot of ground, right? I try to give you as much as we can. We're going to come back to this a little while later and throughout the season to give you some more updates and fine tune you some more some minutia. But this is the general lay of the land, folks. And then this is the general kind of pulse of the world, not just the country, for the next 12 months.
Right.
Right?
Indeed, man. So we got an interesting year. Every year is interesting, but it's gonna get real interesting for sure.
It's going to get real interesting. Yeah. Yeah. And no, COVID's not going anywhere. Right.
Nah.
So don't imagine that it is, right? But do what you need to do to protect yourself, your family, and your loved ones, and your community. Because remember, Jupiter is going to teach you that one man affects what? A whole host of others, right?
Yep.
Right. So we're going to really understand that we are, right, really part of a whole, and that we need to definitely make some differences around how we act and function and treat each other.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. Well, as usual, this episode is brought to you by Pushing Forward Media Group, Calipusha Astrology, and our good people over there on Patreon. When you check out this episode, make sure you go and check out the mundane astrology playlist that I constructed on this channel. All the other prediction episodes are on there as well. So go check it out for yourself and see, see how everything pans out and stuff like that. And definitely keep an eye on the news and different things like that to, see if, what we're saying is checking out or whatnot. Indeed. Right. Anything else you got to say, man, before we officially check out of here, man?
No, I thought about it for a quick second, just including Biden, but we talked about Biden. It's not over for Biden either. It's just getting started. K2 got to do his thing in his chart too, right?
Right.
So, right, you might be interestingly surprised, right, that right, the 12th house, which is hospitalization, is not out the woods here in the next year or so. So, not to say I hope he definitely prevails and has a healthy year, but it wouldn't surprise me if some things definitely knock on his door.
One thing I did you didn't do. Remember you was talking about the day after the solstice. You didn't do it for this year.
I didn't. We'll come back to that. I promise. We will do it. We will do it. We will tie it in, and we'll do it when we do the kind of update. We'll definitely do that this year. I got
for
it.
Sure. Indeed. Indeed. All right, y'all. Well, thank you all for tuning in. If you haven't already, make sure you like and subscribe to this channel, like this video. Let us get them, get our algorithm points up and stuff like that, and share this with your people or whatnot, so we could take this thing to the next level or whatnot. We definitely enjoy doing this, but we want to, get this into the minds and hearts of the people. So let's go ahead and make that happen. All right.
I do got one announcement. So before I'm glad, thank you, my brother, because you did ask me, and this wheels are turning. So there are a lot of wheels in there too, right? So classes will be coming up soon, right? Right. So we are at the end of the phasing out of one set of classes. We've got a neophyte level, which is your beginners, right? Novice level. We've got an intermediate or initiate level, right? And we also have an adept or an advanced level. And we will be also having a Jyotishi level, which the people that are at the adept or advanced level moving into really producing new astrologers, new people that can be out there kind of handling charts and doing professional consultations. So they will actually be moving into that level. And you're more than welcome to try to dive in at that level if you would like, right? But we will be having some advertisements ready for you. The first classes will begin right around the second or third week of March, right? So just be prepared, right? You will be getting updates and information as we go. So the prices are fairly affordable. I spend a lot of time with my students. And I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of great teachers out here, a lot of great astrologers that can give you insight and pointers and tools. But I personally walk you through as from an infant stage to a full blown adult stage so that you can learn this in full, in detail, bit by bit. A lot of astrologers, a lot of teachers don't do that. They shove it down your throat. They spend an hour, maybe an hour and a half with you per week, per subject, and they expect for you to learn it and move on. I don't. I take my time. It's 30 to 36 weeks I spend with you for the money you spend, right? Which is really averages out to probably very little per week, but I do it because I want to produce high level people that can use the science and do what I do on a regular basis. So take advantage. This is the one time of year that is going to begin to recycle, and then you have to wait until the whole next year again, right until March again, April again of next year to get on the bus. So definitely, if you're interested, let me know. Hit me up. The prices are hot and ready. They're not that expensive in comparison to others. So, and trust me, every one of my students will tell you, and I mean, I say every one of them tell you that your money is well spent.
Indeed, indeed. Big ups to that. Big ups to that. And speaking on that level, be on the lookout. You know what I'm saying? If you haven't already, subscribe to Ninth Floor Films. You know, we're in some pre-production for some short films coming up. And you're gonna see a flux of a lot of videos, a lot of things coming
It's
out
coming.
over on
It's
Ninth Floor
coming.
Films for sure. So definitely stay tuned for that and whatnot. Indeed. Well, definitely soak this up. You know, we'll be back next week, or we'll be back with another episode. Okay, real soon. All right. Just stay tuned in. Like I said, hit that subscription. Hit the subscription, but hit the notification bell. So you can know when we're live, and watch the community tab. Go ahead and interact on there because we're posting things. That's where you get a lot of updates. I'm not on Instagram and Facebook as much anymore. We're really just shifting the focus to YouTube in regards to social media. So definitely tune into the community tab. That's where all the announcements will be for sure. All right. So you know, thank you all for tuning in, and we're out. Peace.
Peace.
Thank you.